The most hated woman in France met her gruesome end on the guillotine. But was she really that awful? Follow the life of Marie Antoinette from the shiny beginning in the Vienna court until the bitter end in Paris. No, I didn't say until the sharp end because that would be insensitive. Her journey wasn't fun, and her life was a series of misfortunes and tragedies, one after another. At least history remembers Marie Antoinette as a tragic figure who didn't deserve her fate. Oh, wait, she was considered the perfect villain of the French Revolution since she was a woman and a foreigner. I knew it was one of those two. Stay till the end of this video and find out everything about Marie Antoinette, as she should have been described, a caring mother and a simple woman who was a little out of touch about the known world collapsing around her, and also how polite she was to her executionist. You are likely familiar with Marie Antoinette and her time in France, and if you try to read the most basic history book, she and her husband, Louis XV, are considered villains. Please don't use the guillotine on me, but I tend to disagree. Incompetent? Maybe. Spoiled? Probably. Out of touch with reality? Definitely. But not plain evil. And why is she represented in such an awful manner? Propaganda can create wonders. And the truth was, France was in problems. Expensive wars that started during Louis XIV's time only continued during his successor, Louis XV, which led to financial struggles. Let me remind you that these two kings ruled from 1643 until 1774, and that most of that time France was at war, mostly against England and its allies. In 1774, Louis XVI inherited the French throne from his grandfather. 4 years before he became the ruling monarch, then 16-year-old Louis XVI married 1 year younger Austrian princess Marie Antoinette as a way to end hostilities between the two nations. Let's say that when things went south, people referred to Marie as the Austrian, to emphasize their hatred towards her. So French people still didn't like the Austrians and their new queen. French involvement in the American Independence War resulted in an enormous financial debt, and new taxes made the king even more unpopular. All of that led to the famous French Revolution in 1789. Since then, the royal family became more prisoners than residents in Versailles, and by 1792, the monarchy was abolished. The following year, Louis XVI was executed, and the sad hero of our story, Marie Antoinette, followed him a few months later. And everyone was happy when she lost her head, because she was the one who talked bad about the people, cheated on her husband, and even became an Austrian spy. Or maybe not. Let's hear her story. Marie Antoinette was born Maria Antonia, the youngest daughter of 15 children of the Austrian Empress Maria Theresa. You heard me right, 15! At the court, she was known for her beautiful singing voice, dancing, and cheerfulness. Besides that, she received the best possible education. But Marie was an underachiever in school. She could barely write at the age of 10, in any of the 3 languages they taught her, even German. Although her mother loved Marie, she didn't have a high opinion of her talents. On one occasion, the Empress wrote to Marie, "Do not lose it by neglecting that which gave it to you. You owe it neither to your beauty, which is in fact not great, nor to your talents or culture. You know very well you have neither. It is your kind heart, your frankness, your amiability, all exerted by your good judgment." What a loving mother. Okay, Marie Antoinette was known as lazy. French tutor who worked with her when she got married confirmed she lacked some basic knowledge, but was much smarter than they thought. In late 1770, she arrived in France, where she met her future husband. Although Antoinette was charming, some didn't accept her well because she was from Austria. It didn't help that nobody trusted her, since even her mother sent a spy to follow what Marie was up to. When Marie arrived in France, her only assignment was to produce a male heir. And as the years went by, that pressure increased further. People needed someone to hate when times were rough, and the new queen from Austria, who couldn't produce an heir, was the perfect candidate. It didn't help that she brought a personal chocolate maker from Vienna. I mean, besides spending money on luxury furniture and gambling. As a married woman in her teens, Marie struggled to get used to her new life. And we can tell the same for her husband. They learned to live with each other. Although Marie and Louis XVI didn't consummate their marriage at first, eventually she gave birth to 4 children, between 1778 and 1786. 2 boys and 2 girls had different fates. In the beginning, they were born into a loving family with a caring mother devoted to them. Louis Joseph died aged 7 from tuberculosis on the same day whole turmoil before the revolution started. Sophie lived less than a year, and Louis XVII was with his mother until their separation a few months before her death. He lived 3 more years and died at the age of 10, severely tortured by his fosters, who wanted to indoctrinate him into the ways of the revolution. He was just a child. The only one surviving infancy was Princess Marie Therese, who lived for 72 years. But let's return to their mother while the times were still good. The only place Marie Antoinette was truly happy in Versailles was the Hameau de Lorraine, built between 1783 and 1786. It was the Queen's favourite, if not the only, retreat from the outside world and the court. Maybe that looks too much, but we are talking about the court where the custom was for a few dozen people to witness childbirth. It is a fake peasant village with houses, a farm, a mill, a barn, a beautiful pond, and a stream. The only thing missing was the smell. Details on village houses were large, so anyone looking from the other side of the pond could see them. It is a heavenly village, and it is understandable why Marie Antoinette spent a lot of time there. But it was all fake, and the reality soon struck hard on her and her children. While the Queen spent time in her village, the situation went from bad to worse. Her reputation was sealed during the affair with the diamond necklace. It was an expensive necklace that Louis XV ordered for his mistress. By the time it had been finished, Louis XV had died, and the jeweller tried to sell it to Marie Antoinette. Marie Antoinette refused to buy it. Soon the scandal emerged because one lady decided to forge the Queen's signature, and it turned out as Marie Antoinette didn't pay for the necklace, the fraud was discovered, and the person found guilty of fraud was convicted. But for ordinary people, there was only one person guilty here. Yep, the Austrian. No, not Arnold Schwarzenegger. Marie Antoinette. The irony was that she never even took the necklace, but public opinion turned against her. This was 3 years before the revolution. After 1789, their world fell apart, although the royal family tried to escape. In early 1793, Marie was widowed and became a prisoner in the Tower of the Temple with her children. She was often insulted by the guards. When Robespierre took control in Paris, her fate was sealed. In July, the order arrived to separate Marie from her children. She fought fiercely against the guards but couldn't outpower them. She often stood by the window to see her son for a moment or two while he was walking with his guards. A few weeks later, she was accused of wrongdoing with his son. Louis XVII had to lie, but that didn't save him from his cruel destiny. One last lie against the foreigner. In August, she was already in an actual prison cell. Many of the accusations against Marie Antoinette were hardly believable, but that didn't matter since the verdict was familiar before the trial started. You know, the democracy of the French Revolution. To finish the tragedy, she was tied, forced to wear a plain white dress, forced to change in front of guards, mocked in an open carriage, executed on the guillotine, and buried in an unmarked grave. Contrary to that, her last words were, "Pardon me, sir, I meant not to do it," when she accidentally stepped on the executioner's shoe. A lady. Marie Antoinette was a tragic character who had a stroke of tough luck and was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Okay, maybe she was a little out of touch with reality, but most of the royalty back then lived in a similar manner. Marie was an easy target for angry masses because she was a foreigner, and above all, she was a woman. She wasn't a bad person and didn't deserve her fate. So please, spread the word, my dear followers, and put an end to this centuries-long injustice.